Hello. What we're going to work on today is I just want to go through each of the sections and do at least one of the problems so you have something to go off today. And make sure you have those formulas on, because remember, you get to use this packet right here. You have it all organized and everything when you take the final, and so we're going to make sure that you try to have things in there that will be helpful. So the formula for the area of a triangle, area is equal to 1/2 base times height. Okay? And remember, the height has to be perpendicular. So if we look at these problems down here, this is your height. This is your base. Those two mean nothing. So this is your height. This is your base. You just plug it into the formula. Same thing here. Here's your height. Now this is your base. This is the only part that is the base. So I write down 1/2 base times height. And you want to do this, you want to show all your work, because if you get to use this for the exam, you have to have the problem to show what's going on. So you want to write everything down so you can refer to it. So here's my base, and my height is 6.2. And when I multiply that, so I'm going to pull out my calculator, and I get 22.01. It's area, so it's going to be meters squared. Okay, it's always going to be meters squared, so make sure that you have squared. Okay, and you're going to do those other three. Write the formula for the area of a parallelogram. Remember, a parallelogram looks like a pushed over rectangle, and area of a parallelogram is base times height. Area of a trapezoid looks more like a lampshade, okay, where these two sides have to be parallel and the other two do not. So this one is area is equal to 1/2 height times base 1 plus base 2. And these are your two bases. This right here is a base, and this right here is a base. And that's what you're going to add together before you multiply it times height. Okay? So even though this is a rectangle, it's also a parallelogram. So by definition, that can also be. So here is my height. There is my base. Okay? And just plug it in. So let's go back here. This is a trapezoid. This is your height. And remember, we switched everything to yards. So this is your height. This is a trapezoid. So first I'm going to write down the formula. 1/2 times the height times base 1 plus base 2. So I have 1/2 times the height, which is 24. And then my two bases are 5 and 10. Okay? So I'm going to do all that. But these are my two bases. And again, you want to write down your work. So when you're taking the exam this week, whatever day you're taking it, you will have this to refer to. So that is going to be, I came up with 180 yards squared. Okay? This is a parallelogram right down here. This is my height. This is my base. This has nothing to do with anything as far as finding the area. Here is my height, and here is my base. So parallelogram is base times height. My base is 6. My height is 5. So I get 30, and it's going to be meters squared. Okay? Now on number 14, okay, you can divide your lines lots of ways. One is just come across like this and then find out what's going on. And I'm going to find the area of this rectangle and of this triangle. So this rectangle is 10 by 5. So I'm just going to take 5 times 10 because it's base times height. And I'm going to get 50 centimeters squared. Now for this one, I need my height right here. Well, what I have to do is this entire thing is 8. And this is 5. So from here to here is 5. So what do I have to add to 5 to get 8? 3. So this height is 3. This entire side is 10. So this entire side is 10. So if this is 4, that means this is 6. So I'm going to take 1/2 base times height. So 1/2 times 6 times 3. And that gives me 18. Half of that is 9. So now I have 50 plus 9 gives me 59 centimeters squared. That's my final answer. This one does the same thing. Obviously, draw your line right there. Now, for each prism cylinder, find the volume and surface area. Be sure to show your work. And it's really important to show your work because on these, you're going to be referring to them. So remember to find volume. That's the area of the base times the height. And the area of the base, if this is a rectangular, so see how my base is a rectangle? So it's going to be length times width times height. So all I have to do is plug in all of these. And since it doesn't matter what order, I'm just going to multiply them all together. So I'm going to multiply 12 times 14 times 2.5. And I get 420. Now what you need to remember, volume is always cubed. I want a cube volume. So this is 420 centimeters cubed. Okay? To find surface area, what I want to do on surface area is remember that I'm going to have this bottom rectangle. Okay? So to find surface area, I'm going to, and I have two of those. I have a bottom and a top, so I'm going to take 2 times length times width. And I'm going to take, and that's my bottom, then I'm going to go front. That's going to be, again, it's going to be height times width. And the thing is, the clue on this is, see how I have width twice, but I only have length and height once, so that is going to be this last one. They all have to be used twice. Now I just plug them in. And it doesn't matter what is really length and width and height on this, but I'm going to call these length and width, and you might want to label them. That's length, that's width, that's height. So then I know where to plug it in. So I have length plus width, then 2 times height times the width. But if I label it, I know what I'm plugging in. And 2 times the length times the height. And then you're going to take your calculator and do all that. So I just plugged it all into my calculator, and you can just go from left to right. 2 times 2.5 times 14 plus 2 times. But I will tell you this, do it twice. Okay, so this is what I got, and I did it a second time to make sure I was right, and that's centimeters squared, because you're an area. So this is going to be squared. Okay, good. I'll leave this one to you. Let's go to the next page. Now we have a triangular prism. Okay, the next 3 are triangular prisms. To find volume, if it's a prism, I'm still going to take area of the base times the height. But my base this time is a triangle. And then my height, this height right here, is the height of the entire prism. Okay, so just so that you realize that's a different height. And my height here is 11. My triangle base, they didn't mark it, and they should have. That's a right triangle right there. So this is my base, and this is my height, or vice versa. It doesn't make any difference. This 17, all it does is one of my rectangles later on over here on surface area. It has nothing to do with volume. So I'm going to take 1/2 times 8, that's my base, times my height, which is 15, and then I'm going to multiply it times the height of the entire prism. While we're looking at these, that's your height. Here, what's my height of my prism? My height of my prism is 11. You have to look, nope, it's not. It's 5. Sorry, this is my height. See, it can be confusing. Good. Okay, so then you're going to multiply all of that. And I get 660. Always double check. Whoops. 660 twice. It's volume, so it's cubed, so it's yards cubed. Now, to do surface area on this, what you need to do is remember this is where we make that table, because we have to find the area of the triangle, and then 3 rectangles. Okay? Now, the good news is, if you are smart enough to remember, this is how I find the area of a triangle, and this is how I would find it, I can just use this. So I'm going to take 1/2 times 8 times 15. Okay, so that's going to be 60. Now here's the other good thing. These 2 triangles are exactly the same, so once you have one, yay, you've got the second. Now what I like to do next is I like to trace my rectangles to see what I'm doing. So the first rectangle I'm going to do is this one right out front here. I don't know if you can see, so I'm going to do this one right here. That's my first rectangle I'm going to do. So notice I like to trace by them, because then if I trace, I see what numbers I'm going by. So that's a 17 by 11. And it doesn't matter which rectangle you do first. So you multiply 17 times 11. And you get 187. Okay? Now I'm going to trace a different rectangle. So this rectangle I'm going to trace is right over here. So this rectangle, you can't see that. It doesn't show up, does it? Do you see what I'm tracing, though? Okay, there I went by 11. Now I'm going to go by 8. So that's an 8 by 11. Okay, now my last rectangle that I'm going to trace, you won't be able to see that either. Let's try this marker. So I'm going to trace this one right back here. See that one that I'm tracing over? Okay, I'm going by 15, and then I need this right here. Well, what is that? That's the same as this. So it's a 15 by 11. This height is the same as this height. So it's a 15 by 11. Is 165. Okay? So now I'm going to add all that together, all three of those. Sorry, all five. And I got 560. Always do it twice. So go back and check that again. And we would have yards squared because we're in area. Going to do that same thing with 19 and 20. On number 11, we have a cylinder. We still start off with area of the base times the height, but now the area of my base is a circle. Pi r squared times the height. Okay? So if they give me a radius, yay, I just plug that in. So I have 3.14 times the radius, here's my radius, 7.5 squared, and then times my height, which is 16. So I'm going to multiply that. And I'm not sure if that's right. I'm going to do it one more time just to make sure. Especially when I have to do a squared button, I'm going to always double check it. So that's 2,826 millimeters, and we're in volume, so what is that? Right, cubed. Now to find the surface area, I'm going to do that the surface area is I have two bases that are circles, so 2 times the area of a circle. And then I'm going to do the circumference times the height. So I have to do 2 pi, that's circumference, times the height. Okay, and here's my height, here's my radius. So now just plug that in. 2 times 3.14 times 7.5 squared plus 2 times 3.14 times the radius. This one is not squared, that's just a 7.5 times the height, which is 16. And you're going to multiply that. Okay, let's all do that right now with our calculator. So I got 1,106.85 millimeters squared. Okay, good. You're going to do the same thing on these two. Those are just, now watch though, this is a diameter. So first I have to find the radius. Same thing here, I have to find the radius. How do I find the radius? Take diameter times 2, that's right. Now on here we're just going to calculate the volume. To find the volume, it's going to be 1/3 area of the base times the height. So it's the same thing, but we have to take 1/3 of it. And then you just have to look at what kind of base you have. So here I have a triangular base, so it's going to be 1/3 times 1/2 base times height. And remember, this height is the height of the prism. Your height of your prism goes from your apex perpendicular to the base. And then you're just going to plug that in. Well, it looks like my triangle is 12 times 12, so base times height. Okay, I'll let you do that one. Finish that one out. Okay, and then here on 26 and 27, my base, so I'm still going to use volume is equal to 1/3 area of the base times the height. But my base now is a rectangle. So it's just going to be length times width. And then that height is, again, the height of the pyramid. I think you can do that one too. Okay? Remember, it's a volume, so volume is going to be cubed. So make sure that you label it. Okay? Good. On this, define and provide an example of each type of angles below using your own words. Complementary angles, I would say angles that add to 90 degrees, because complementary. An example of that, I'm going to give you a couple examples. First off, I could have a right angle, and then I could have that this right here, this is x, and this would say 60. Okay, so this would be x plus 60 is equal to 90. Okay, if they say they're complementary, I can also have them not even be touching, and they could still be, and they could say that this one is 70, this one is 20, so they add to 90 degrees. Okay, but they might ask you to find the other one. Supplementary angles, very similar. Angles that add to 180 degrees. Okay, supplementary, this is also going off that, so here's a line, also called a straight angle. So if I have anything off of a line, it's going to be that these two add to 80, so 180. So this is x, and we'll say this is 80. We'll make it easy, so x plus 80 is equal to 180. Okay, or you can just take 180 minus 80 to find out that's 100. That is not that. This looks like more like about 70, but okay. So supplementary angles add to 180. Vertical angles. This is always the hard one for me to describe. It's when lines intersect. Okay. Vertical angles, if I were putting in my own words, vertical angles are like across from each other. Vertical angles across from each other. So so this is a vertical angle right here. This one is a vertical angle right here with this one right here. Those are vertical angles. But we always have two pairs. So the other pair of vertical angles would be right up here. These would be vertical angles. Let's see if this shows up better. This angle right here would be a vertical angle with this angle right here. Okay? Good. So that's how I would define them. That was a hard one to define. You just have to be able to identify them. Oh, but you need to remember that vertical angles, that pen doesn't work, vertical angles are equal in measure. Okay, so if I tell you that this angle right here is 130 degrees, what is this angle right here? Exactly 130 degrees. Now we can also off of this see what happens. Okay, so if this is 130 degrees, this one has to be 180 minus that, so this one's 50 degrees. Because they have to add to 180. And this one's 50 degrees. That's supposed to be a little degree sign right there. It's a degree sign, not 1300. Ah! Okay, but that's a little degree sign. Just make a little circle there. These are degrees. Okay, good. So on this side, you're just going to be using that over and over and over and over again. And there's a lot of them here. So these are vertical angles, so these would be set equal. So 6x. See how these are both vertical angles? So 6x minus 2 is equal to 133. To solve this equation, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So 6x is equal to 135. Divide by 6. Okay, so you're just solving equations, and that's really important. You know how to solve equations. Is 22.5 is what x is equal to. 22.5. Missing angle measure. Well, it's got to be 133 because it's equal to that one. I'm not sure if they're talking about this one right here. And if so, I would take 180. Okay, so if I'm going to call this x, oh, I can't call it x, I already have x. Let's call this one y. I don't know if that's the missing angle they're talking about. I would have to take 133 away from 180. And I'd get 47 degrees. So I don't know if they're talking about this angle. That one's 47, but we knew that because that's 33. Okay. So you're going to go through and do these. These are supplementary because they're on that straight angle. These are complementary, so I'm going to add to 90. Okay. Same thing here. This one here, oh, look at, that's a straight angle. This one's 22. Okay, think about that, straight angle. Now we get into a little more complicated. We have to remember this, and they mark this poorly, this right here is 148. So can I find W? Whoops. This is 148, but look at them. They're on that line. Okay, see that line right there? They're on a straight angle. So this has to add to 180. So find W. And then this tells you it's a right angle, so therefore this is also a right angle. So right angles are 90 degrees, those add to 90. So find W, then find X. Here you're going to be using what you know about straight angles, about vertical angles. See how right here, this angle is a vertical angle with this angle. You see that? So then you can find out if that's 18, what's that? Then notice that this is on a straight angle. What does a straight angle have to add up to be? 180. Okay, so then you can find Z from that. Then you have to go with this is a straight angle, or you can go with this as a straight angle and say I found out Z this way, found out X. Oh, you found out X this way because look, those are vertical angles. So these are also vertical angles. So if this is 64, what's that one? And then this is a straight angle, okay? Keep working on those. And I'll give you answers in the next video tutorial. Now here we're using that the three angles of a triangle add to 180 degrees. So that has to add up to 180 degrees. So you're going to write an equation for each of these. Or you can just go through and subtract. So you can add these two together, subtract from 180, and find out that side. Same thing on all of these. Okay? Good. Okay. So that just gives you an overview of all of it. Now go and work on this on your own, and tomorrow's video will tell you the answers and go through the rest of these. Good. Thanks.